A struggling actress helped an elderly woman cross the street, unaware she was a famous Hollywood icon whose weathered hands had once held 5 Academy Awards. Lily Parker barely noticed the woman at first, her mind consumed by the rejection letter crumpled in her coat pocket. The 20th this month? The California winter sun shone bright but without warmth, much like the smiles of casting directors who told her she had something special before choosing someone else. Lily's boots, the only professional-looking pair she owned, pinched her toes as she waited for the crosswalk signal, her stomach growling in protest of another meal sacrificed to make rent. That's when she saw her. An elderly woman with a cane, trembling slightly against the February breeze, clutching a worn leather handbag to her chest. The woman's silver hair caught the sunlight, creating a momentary halo effect that stirred something in Lily's chest, a feeling separate from her own problems. "Would you like some help crossing?" Lily asked, offering her arm without thinking. The old woman looked up, eyes a startling shade of blue, the kind of blue that had once been captured in Technicolor close-ups. But Lily didn't make the connection. "That would be lovely, dear." The woman's voice carried a melodic quality, like wind chimes disturbed by a gentle breeze. "These crosswalks get shorter every year. Or perhaps I get slower." She chuckled, the sound surprisingly youthful. Lily smiled, her first genuine smile in days. "I'm Lily." "Eleanor," the woman replied, taking Lily's arm. Her grip was surprisingly firm. "What brings you out on such a thoughtful day?" "Thoughtful day?" "Yes," Eleanor said as they stepped off the curb together. "The kind of day that makes you think." "About everything." "About nothing." Something about Eleanor's phrasing caught Lily off guard. It was poetic, unexpected, like dialogue from another era. "I just got rejected for another role," Lily confessed, surprising herself with her candor. "I'm an actress." "Or trying to be." Eleanor nodded as they made their slow progress across the street. "Rejection is the backbone of creation, my dear. Without it, how would we know the sweetness of acceptance?" They reached the other side just as the light changed, cars surging forward like Lily's heartbeat, just a little faster than normal. "Thank you," Eleanor said, but made no move to release Lily's arm. "Would you humor an old woman and walk me to the cafe on the corner?" "I'd offer to buy you coffee as thanks." Lily should have said no. She had another audition to prepare for, a small role in a commercial that wouldn't advance her career, but might pay next month's utilities. But there was something in Eleanor's eyes, a kindness, yes, but also a sharpness, an intelligence that seemed to see right through her. "I'd like that," Lily said. The cafe was nearly empty, a small blessing in a city where privacy was a luxury few could afford. They settled at a corner table, sunlight streaming through windows smudged with fingerprints and dreams. "So," Eleanor said, wrapping her papery hands around a steaming mug of Earl Grey, "tell me about your acting." And Lily did. She told this stranger about the childhood plays in her parents' living room, about the community theater productions in her small Midwestern town, about the one-way ticket to Los Angeles that her parents had called throwing her life away. She told Eleanor about the 3 good roles she'd landed in 4 years and the 72 rejections. Eleanor listened with her whole body, nodding, smiling, frowning at all the right moments. It was a quality Lily recognized from the best scene partners she'd ever had: complete presence. "Why do you continue?" Eleanor asked finally, her question hanging in the air like the steam from their drinks. Lily stared into her now lukewarm coffee. "Because I don't know how to want anything else." Eleanor's smile then, slow, knowing, a little sad around the edges, made Lily feel seen in a way she hadn't since arriving in Los Angeles. "Then you must continue," Eleanor said simply. She glanced at her watch, a delicate gold timepiece that seemed to belong to another era. "I should be going, but I walk in Griffith Park every Thursday morning. Perhaps I'll see you there." Before Lily could respond, Eleanor had placed a $20 bill on the table, far more than their coffees cost, and stood with surprising grace for a woman her age. "Wait," Lily said, scrambling to her feet. "Let me help you." "Not today," Eleanor said with a gentle firmness. "Today you helped enough." She patted Lily's hand once, a gesture both grandmotherly and somehow authoritative. "Remember, dear, the most powerful scenes often have no dialogue at all." With that cryptic statement, Eleanor left, the bell above the cafe door singing her exit. Lily arrived at her audition 20 minutes late, the casting director's assistant giving her a look that said she'd already been crossed off the list. But for once, Lily didn't feel the familiar panic. Instead, she thought of Eleanor's words about rejection and creation, about continuing. "I'm sorry I'm late," she said, not with the desperate apology she usually offered, but with simple acknowledgement. "I'm ready whenever you are." The commercial was for laundry detergent, hardly the dramatic role she'd dreamed of, but something had shifted. Instead of playing the part as she'd rehearsed, Lily channeled the quiet dignity she'd seen in Eleanor, the silent strength. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then the director leaned forward. "That was unexpected," he said. "Can you do it again? Just like that?" 3 days later, Lily got the call. She'd booked the commercial. The pay wasn't life-changing, but it would cover 2 months' rent. Thursday morning found her at Griffith Park, scanning the walking paths for a silver-haired woman with a cane. She told herself she was there to thank Eleanor for the coffee, for the advice that had somehow transformed her audition. But the truth was more complex. Lily felt drawn to this stranger in a way she couldn't articulate. She spotted Eleanor on a bench overlooking the city, the morning haze softening the Los Angeles skyline into something almost beautiful. The old woman was feeding breadcrumbs to a gathering of sparrows, her movements deliberate and graceful. "I got the part," Lily said by way of greeting. Eleanor looked up, her blue eyes crinkling with pleasure. "Of course you did," she said, as though it had never been in question. She patted the bench beside her. "Tell me about it." They fell into a routine after that. Thursday mornings in the park, sometimes walking slowly along the paths, sometimes sitting in companionable silence watching the city below. Eleanor never volunteered much about herself, deflecting personal questions with the skill of someone accustomed to interviews. But she listened to Lily with unwavering attention, offering advice that was both practical and profound. "Acting isn't about becoming someone else," she told Lily one morning as they watched a red-tailed hawk circle overhead. "It's about finding the part of yourself that already is that person." "How do you know so much about acting?" Lily asked, not for the first time. Eleanor smiled enigmatically. "I've known many actors in my time. Spring turned to summer." Lily booked another commercial, then a small speaking role in a television procedural. She began to recognize the patterns in her previous auditions, how she'd been performing rather than being. Eleanor's guidance, though often mysterious, had somehow unlocked something authentic in her work. On a particularly hot August morning, Lily arrived at their bench to find Eleanor looking more fragile than usual, her normally impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. "Are you all right?" Lily asked, immediately concerned. "Just a little tired today, dear," Eleanor said, but her voice lacked its usual musical quality. "Would you mind if we stayed here rather than walking?" Lily sat closer than usual, instinctively protective. "Of course not. I have news anyway. I got a callback for an independent film. A real part. The kind I moved here for." Eleanor's smile bloomed slowly, transforming her tired face. "Wonderful. Tell me everything." As Lily described the role, a young woman caring for her grandmother who's in the early stages of dementia, Eleanor's expression shifted subtly. "You know," Eleanor said after Lily finished, "my mother had dementia in her final years. I was much younger than you are now, but I remember how she would sometimes look at me with such clarity, as if all the fog had momentarily lifted." It was the first truly personal thing Eleanor had shared. Lily felt a surge of tenderness toward this woman who had become, what? A mentor? A friend? Something deeper than either word conveyed. "I didn't know," Lily said softly. "There's much you don't know about me," Eleanor replied, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. "Perhaps that's been unfair of me." "You don't owe me your life story," Lily said, though curiosity burned through her. "No," Eleanor agreed. "But friendship should have some balance, shouldn't it?" She turned to Lily, those remarkable blue eyes now shadowed with something that looked like decision. "Would you help me home today? I find I'm more tired than I expected." Eleanor's home turned out to be a Spanish-style villa nestled in the Hollywood Hills, with a view that made Lily's breath catch. A discreet security gate opened to a curved driveway lined with jacaranda trees, their purple blossoms creating a carpet of color. "You live here?" Lily couldn't keep the astonishment from her voice as they pulled up in her ancient Honda Civic, which looked comically out of place. "For nearly 50 years, Eleanor said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement at Lily's reaction. "It's too much house for one old woman, but I could never bear to leave it." Inside was like stepping into another world, or rather multiple worlds layered atop each other. Modern furniture sat alongside antiques that belonged in museums. The walls held artwork Lily recognized from art history classes in college, original pieces, not reproductions. And everywhere there were photographs. Lily stopped before a black and white image in a simple silver frame. A young woman in 1950s clothing, laughing up at someone out of frame, her beauty so radiant it seemed to emanate from the photograph itself. There was something familiar about her face, about the distinctive tilt of her head. "Is this you?" Lily asked, already knowing the answer. Eleanor stood beside her, suddenly looking both smaller and larger than life. "Yes," she said simply. "A lifetime ago." Lily moved to the next photograph. The same woman, Eleanor, accepting an award, her face composed but eyes shining with emotion. Then another, Eleanor in period costume on what was clearly a film set, standing between two men Lily instantly recognized as legends of Hollywood's golden age. "You're—" Lily's voice faltered as the pieces clicked into place. Not just an actress, but Eleanor Hayes, 3-time Academy Award winner, star of over 40 films, the woman whose work Lily had studied in her theater history class. The actress who had famously disappeared from public life in the late 1980s, becoming Hollywood's most mysterious recluse. Eleanor Hayes, who Lily had helped across a street on a cold February morning. "I wondered when you might recognize me," Eleanor said, her voice gentle. "Most people your age don't, not anymore. Time is rather efficient at erasing fame." "But you're—" Lily couldn't finish the sentence. Eleanor Hayes was more than famous. She was legendary. "I'm an old woman who enjoys Thursday walks in the park," Eleanor completed for her, "and who has greatly enjoyed your company these past months." Lily sank onto a nearby sofa, her mind racing through every conversation they'd had, every piece of advice Eleanor had given her, all from one of the most celebrated actresses of all time. A woman whose autobiography sat dog-eared on Lily's nightstand. "Why didn't you tell me?" she finally managed. Eleanor lowered herself carefully into an armchair across from Lily. "Would it have changed anything if I had? Would you have spoken to me so honestly about your struggles, your dreams, if you'd known who I was from the beginning?" The question hung in the air between them, and Lily knew the answer. She would have been starstruck, careful, performing rather than being, exactly what Eleanor had been teaching her not to do in her acting. "No," Lily admitted. "I would have been too intimidated." "Exactly." Eleanor's smile held no triumph, only understanding. "Fame creates a barrier, my dear. I've spent most of my life with people reacting to who they think I am, rather than seeing me. When you offered your arm at that crosswalk, you weren't helping Eleanor Hayes, the actress. You were helping an old woman who needed assistance. Do you know how rare that is?" Lily thought about the genuine connection they'd formed over the months, how Eleanor had never once mentioned her own accomplishments while helping Lily navigate her fledgling career. "I'm surprised no one recognized you in public," Lily said, still trying to reconcile the Eleanor she knew with the Hollywood icon she'd studied. "Oh, occasionally someone does," Eleanor said with a dismissive wave. "But at my age, in this town obsessed with youth, I've become wonderfully invisible. It's quite liberating." She leaned forward, suddenly serious. "Lily, I didn't bring you here to impress you with who I was. I brought you here because I have a proposition." 2 days later, Lily found herself sitting in the most important audition of her life. Not for a commercial or a small television role, but for the lead in a major film, a film being produced by Katherine Winston, one of Hollywood's few female directors over 60 and a longtime friend of Eleanor Hayes. "Eleanor rarely makes recommendations," Katherine had said when Lily arrived, her assessing gaze both intimidating and familiar. "In fact, this is the first time in 20 years, so you must be something special." Lily's hands trembled as she held the sides, the script pages for the audition. The role was complex, layered, exactly the kind of part she'd dreamed of playing but never thought she'd have the opportunity to audition for at this stage in her career. She thought of Eleanor's advice, "Find the part of yourself that already is that person." Closing her eyes briefly, Lily let go of the desperate need to impress, to succeed, to be what she thought they wanted. Instead, she allowed herself to simply be, to connect with the truth of the character as she understood it, filtered through her own experiences, her own heart. When she finished, the room was silent. Katherine Winston's expression revealed nothing. "Thank you," the director said finally. "We'll be in touch." Outside the building, Lily didn't cry or laugh or call anyone. She walked, feeling the sun on her face, the slight breeze from the ocean miles away. For the first time since moving to Los Angeles, the outcome didn't define her. She had done her best work, her truest work. That was enough. Her phone rang 3 hours later. She got the part. Eleanor insisted on celebrating at her villa, arranging for a small catered dinner on her terrace overlooking the twinkling city below. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, her silver hair arranged in a more formal style than Lily had ever seen. "To new beginnings," Eleanor said, raising a glass of champagne that caught the light of the candles between them. "I wouldn't be here without you," Lily said, emotion making her voice unsteady. "Not just because of your recommendation, but because of everything you've taught me." Eleanor shook her head slightly. "I merely pointed out what was already there, my dear. The talent, the persistence, the heart, those were always yours." Later, as the night air cooled around them, Eleanor led Lily to a room she hadn't shown her before. A small library with walls lined with leather-bound scripts. "These are all the films I ever made," Eleanor said, running her fingers along the spines with obvious affection. "Some brilliant, some terrible, all part of my journey." She turned to face Lily, suddenly looking every one of her 87 years. "I brought you here because I want to tell you why I really approached you that day in the cafe, why I suggested we meet again." Lily waited, sensing the importance of the moment. "I recognized something in you," Eleanor continued. "Not just talent, though you have that in abundance. I recognized the same loneliness I carried with me throughout my career. The isolation that comes from wanting something so desperately that you begin to believe you must sacrifice everything else to achieve it." She took Lily's hand, her skin papery but her grip still strong. "My greatest regret is not the roles I didn't play, but the connections I didn't make. The people I kept at arm's length because I believed my work required all of me." Tears glinted in Eleanor's remarkable blue eyes. "I saw you help an old woman across the street even though you were clearly carrying your own burdens. I saw kindness without agenda. And I thought, here is someone who might succeed without losing herself in the process." Lily felt her own eyes fill with tears. "I was so lost when I met you." "We found each other," Eleanor corrected gently. "And now you have this magnificent opportunity. But remember, the work is important, but it isn't everything. The connections you make, the kindness you show when no one is watching, that's the real script you're writing with your life." The film changed everything for Lily. Critical acclaim led to award nominations, which led to more offers, better roles, the career she had dreamed of since she was a child performing for her parents in their living room. Through it all, she maintained her Thursday morning walks with Eleanor. They became even more precious as Lily's schedule filled with travel, press junkets, and filming. Eleanor never asked for anything, not tickets to premieres, not introductions to famous people. She simply continued to offer her wisdom, her listening ear, and occasionally her sharp criticism when she felt Lily was making choices for the wrong reasons. 2 years after their first meeting at that crosswalk, Lily stood on a stage accepting her first major award. The lights were blinding, the applause deafening, but she felt strangely calm as she looked out at the crowd. "This belongs to many people," she began, the words she'd rehearsed suddenly inadequate. "But especially to someone who taught me that the most important role we ever play is ourselves, authentically and with our whole hearts." The camera cut to Eleanor in the audience, a rare public appearance she had made at Lily's insistence. Her silver hair was elegantly styled, her blue dress simple but unmistakably expensive. Her eyes shone with unshed tears and fierce pride. "Eleanor Hayes didn't just teach me about acting," Lily continued, her voice steady despite the emotion building in her chest. "She taught me about living, about the power of connection, about seeing people, really seeing them when the rest of the world walks by." The audience's applause swelled as recognition dawned. Eleanor Hayes, making her first public appearance in decades, there to support a young actress no one had heard of 3 years ago. "I helped an elderly woman cross the street," Lily said, her smile tremulous but genuine, "and she helped me find my way home." Later that night, after the parties and photographs, Lily and Eleanor sat on the terrace of the villa, still in their formal wear but with shoes kicked off, sharing a pot of tea and comfortable silence. "You know," Eleanor said finally, "when I was your age, I thought awards were the measure of success." She gazed out at the city lights below. "It took me decades to understand that success is having someone to share the view with." Lily looked at this remarkable woman, once a legend, now a friend, always a guiding light, and felt a completeness she'd never expected to find in Hollywood. "I think," she said slowly, "that success is helping someone across the street without knowing where it might lead." Eleanor's laugh was still musical, still youthful despite her years. "Perhaps we're both right." They sat together until dawn broke over Los Angeles, the city of dreams and heartbreaks transformed by morning light into something hopeful and new, much like Lily herself, who had once been just another struggling actress until she stopped to help an elderly woman cross the street.